Good morning, everyone. We've got about 20 folks on the call this morning, and we want to be timely and respectful of your time this morning. So we're going to get started. Good morning. Welcome to our first Utah Main Street Program monthly webinar. I'm Nan Anderson, and I work in the Go Utah office, the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, and I am the director of the Utah Main Street program. We're going to use the same Zoom link for all of our monthly webinars. So if you would please add to your calendar the first Wednesday of each month at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. We're looking forward to these. This will just be one of our initiatives to support all of our Utah communities that are interested in pursuing downtown and district revitalization. Today's topic is where to start, and we'll feature the real pro, Norma Mice. She is Vice President of Main Street America, and many of you have met Norma at our recent workshop in Salt Lake City. On February 2nd, we're going to hear from the Utah Department of Transportation, focusing in on their new Main Street initiative, and we'll hear from Jay Aguilar and Tim Sullivan. On March 2nd, we're going to hear from Roger Roper, our Deputy SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office. He's their deputy officer, and Roger will focus on the benefits of historic preservation. We're going to announce additional webinar topics very soon. So a few housekeeping announcements for you. Please mute your microphone as we're recording this session, and it'll be available on our website in just a few days. If you have a question, please use the chat function, and I will monitor it during Norma's presentation, and then we'll save some time at the end of the session to address more questions as well. So let's dig into it. There we go. So we're grateful to the Utah Legislature, to the leadership at Go Utah, and our other supporting partners that provided resources, oh my goodness, to bring this important program to Utah. We're looking forward to supporting downtown and district revitalization in all of our UMSP communities. As a part of our advocacy efforts, if you are in communication with your state legislators, your county commissioners, and mayors as well, please tell them that you appreciate the legislature's decision to establish and fund this program. That did happen in last year's legislative session. We have been provided with ongoing funding. For communities that were not a part of the first round of community designations, FYI, we anticipate opening the process in late spring. So, as always, we want to celebrate our wins. A big thanks to our partners that supported that pilot program that was started in 2019. We now have a fantastic Utah Main Street Advisory Committee that is helping to shape our Main Street program efforts as we move forward. We're also very pleased to be one of the new coordinating programs of Main Street America. As a part of our agreement with Main Street America, we will partner with them to provide you with trainings, tools, assessments, and more. Be sure to check out the MSA webpage for amazing resources. That web address is mainstreet.org. So the two pilot communities, got to give them a shout out as always. Brigham City and and Price were amazing to work with. We provided facade grants and also a community grant to help them focus on their particular initiatives. Both seem to be going fairly well. We still do have their community projects in process. We then morphed into the Utah Main Street program. Again, successful legislative effort last year to establish and fund the program with ongoing monies, which is very unusual for a program that has just been passed. So we formed that advisory committee, and I got to tell you, they're a great group of people to work with. I really appreciate them all. We're a coordinating program with Main Street America, as mentioned, and our tiered approach has been developed. In our most recent community designation application, we worked with 16 different communities to be designated into either Tier 1 or Tier 2. Tier 3 probably will open later this year, depending upon how successful our efforts are. We've got our Main Street page, web page developed as on the Go Utah website, and that's business.utah.gov. And you will find all the latest information. We'll use our website as one of our primary forms of communication. We conducted our first Main Street 101 training session late last year. We've got 7 Tier 2 communities that are eligible for downtown enhancement grants. That application is open now, and all 7 of those eligible communities should have received an email from me on December 31. Our SHPO office was awarded a National Park Service grant to support rural Main Street communities. Very excited about that program. As we move forward, we'll be providing and support to all resources to all of our 16 communities with on-site visits, trainings, materials, assessments. So please know that we are here to help and support your efforts, and we in turn are supported by our national group, Main Street America. Later on in the fall this year, we hope to sponsor a Utah Main Street Program conference, which will help get all of us together, network, learn from each other, and support each other. So here is the tabulation from the advisory committee's review of designation applications. All of the communities that applied should have received this information from us. And as always, please feel free to reach out directly to me. Email is nanderson, n.anderson@utah.gov. Please email me with your questions or give me a call. We anticipate that several Tier 1 communities will want to work to move up into Tier 2 this year. We will have more information on how to achieve that, hopefully later on this month. How will the Utah Main Street Program help communities? We've developed that tiered structure to help support your efforts and focus on downtown revitalization. We're going to focus on providing you with technical and training assistance, support your community economic development plans. For Tier 2 communities, we do have the Downtown Enhancement Grant Program. We will also provide to all of our Main Street Program communities access to resources throughout several state and even federal agencies. These are a few of the benefits of the Utah Main Street Program designation. Please note that this is a new program. We're still developing our approach as we move forward. Please learn more about the Main Street America resources and potential. Their webpage is amazing. There's almost anything you could ever want in terms of how to address particular problems, opportunities. Their resources on planning for downtown revitalization are truly second to none. So it is an amazing webpage. So Tier 1 communities, their benefits include our sponsorship of their membership in Main Street America. We'll be working on that in the next month or so. We're going to provide scholarships to Tier 1 communities to attend the Main Street America conference, and those funds will support their travel as well as registration. We're going to require that Tier 1 and Tier 2 communities attend the Utah Main Street Annual Conference. We will also, of course, provide Tier 1 communities with Utah Main Street Program trainings, as well as access to technical assistance. Tier 2 communities will have access to those downtown enhancement grants. And again, the application is open now through January 31. Tier 2 communities that do apply for downtown enhancement grants will be required to join Main Street America, and that will be one of the permissible uses of those grant funds. We are also going to require our Tier 2 communities to attend the Main Street America Conference, which again is also acceptable uses of DEG funds. And that conference will be held in Richmond. I think I've got the dates a little bit later here in the presentation. We're going to require our Tier 2 communities to attend our state conference as well, and also to participate in Utah Main Street program trainings. That Main Street Now annual conference will be held May 16 to 18 in Richmond, Virginia. So hopefully you can get that in your calendars now. So let's get on to this. A few things, and Norma's really going to be focusing on the overarching goals here. But a couple of things I wanted to support you in is to, as most of our communities are new to the Main Street approach, we want to provide you with as many resources and as much information as possible. So let's start looking at how to organize a nonprofit, which is one of the first steps that many of you will be taking. So in Utah, it's a fairly straightforward process. I would recommend that you start out looking at the Utah Nonprofits Association webpage. That is utahnonprofits.org. They have an amazing amount of resources. They show you where to register, how to develop bylaws, articles of incorporation. You then register with the Utah Department of Commerce, and their website is corporations.utah.gov, and you can look through their listings there to start your online nonprofit business registration. So I would recommend you start out working with the state level first, and then if you do want to continue on for full 501c3 designation through the IRS, you will need to register at the irs.gov. 501c3 status, I won't go into a lot of this detail here. Candidly, I'm not a lawyer, but I have started several nonprofits myself, C3s, as well as what are called C6 nonprofit organizations. As you start to delve into this material information, please note C3 status is technically considered an educational or charitable organization. When you achieve federal C3 status, your organization may be eligible for more grants. However, if you do go for C3 status, please note your advocacy and especially any lobbying efforts are very severely curtailed. So one of the reasons some organizations go for C6 status is they do not have the same rules and regulations and limitations on advocacy or lobbying efforts. So again, if you have questions about that, I'm very familiar with the nonprofit world. However, again, a warning, I am not a lawyer. So if you do have legal questions, I would encourage you to reach out to a local lawyer and talk to them about this. It can be a bit of a challenging process. It's just a lot of detail. But if you're familiar in working with lots of detail and government applications, you should be fine. You really can do the entire process, state as well as federal nonprofit designation. Again, it's just a lot of detailed work. So very importantly for us, as we're looking at the beginning of the legislative session next month, will be how do we measure success? Main Street America, you see their requirements listed there. We're going above and beyond that. So the bill that is our enabling legislation, last year it was SB 194. We have included all of the MSA requirements, as well as we want to know what businesses you retained, which ones actually expanded. We want to hear about your decrease in vacancies in your buildings in the downtown district. We also want to know about the number of events and participants that you hosted and were supportive of. So don't forget, the more effectively and completely we can tell our story of Utah's downtown revitalization efforts, we will gain more support from elected officials at all levels, local, county, as well as state. One of the things to note about our budget is we do have the capability, it is included in the legislation, that we are able to go after additional grant funds. Once we get the program established, we hope to be able to raise our budget, which of course in turn would provide more grant fundings to our Main Street communities. So just a couple of high-level thoughts for you as we start down this important path. The pandemic is transforming and changing how and where people live, work, shop, and travel. We need to take advantage of this opportunity to make our Utah communities places where folks want to live, work, shop, play, and recreate. Within the framework of the Main Street approach, we can support investment in Utah's Main Street communities. By investing in a great place, we're going to create lasting assets that will pay dividends long after that initial investment. This approach will help existing businesses. It will create diverse, durable local economies. And of course, it supports community investment in itself. So 2 types of change. I hope you're going to be planned change. Successful communities are distinctive communities. My background is primarily in tourism, and one of the things our tourism research has told us for many, many years is that tourists want authentic, they want distinct, and they are willing to pay a lot of money to experience those distinct and authentic communities. So distinctiveness does have a value. Sameness is a minus, not a plus. Community character matters. So a quote by Mark Twain, we take stock of a city like we take stock of a man. The clothes or appearance are the externals by which we judge. We are supporting you to build an authentic sense of place. A strong sense of place must be rooted in authenticity. Utah has world-class scenic wonders and a natural landscape, great towns, and beautiful architecture. We are set so perfectly for this program to be successful. Whether you're a tourist town or up on the Wasatch Front, an urban district, it all can work together, again, with those roots in authenticity. And lastly, trying to copy other places is a big mistake. So which community do you prefer? The one on the left with a beautiful flower display downtown. The Love Where You Live is actually a sidewalk mosaic that I found in a Utah community here. And then we have the challenge of the community in the upper right. And we understand fully this takes work. This is an endeavor. It will take commitment and what I call a fire in the belly from all of you to move forward in this downtown enhancement process. It is doable. We're here to support you in your efforts as well as the national. Community image is critical to economic vitality and quality of life. So in today's economy, place matters. You see the traditional economy and today's economy. In the past, the economy was market-driven, making the product. Today, it is place-driven, and we're looking at designing the product. So placemaking is economic development. Mayor Cornett from Oklahoma City says, economic development is really a result of creating places where people want to be. So with that, I'm going to wrap up my portion. All of our Utah Main Street communities will be contacted by me in the next month to see how their progress is going and to identify challenges. I want to thank all of you for participating today. I'm so excited about this program because I really believe we can make a true difference throughout the entire state. Now I'm really pleased to turn the time over to our pro, Norma Mice from the Main Street America program. So Norma, let me see if I can stop share.
Thank you, Nan, and hello everybody. Really looking forward to the opportunity to be in Utah communities in the near future, in your community, if possible. Welcome to the Main Street family. Many of you were able to be in our trainings at the end of the year or towards the end of the year last year. Hello to those that are here for the first time. We're looking forward to working with you as our newest members of the Main Street family, and looking forward to this conversation, this presentation. I know some of you already have questions about some of the points that Nan mentioned. We will be looking to have some time for that. And I'm hoping that through this, through my presentation, you're able to see some of those thoughts as well, some of the points that I'm going to try to make. So with that in mind, let me get started by sharing my screen, and I'll do that. So let's talk about what's at the beginning. All of you looking forward to not only starting your revitalization program. For many of you, you are actually starting the revitalization program. For many of you are starting an organization that is going to take the leadership and the management of the downtown revitalization effort. And by downtown, please forgive me for those of you who are in the urban settings. We also say districts, downtown districts. So I'll try to be inclusive in that. But I understand that most of our audience is really familiar with the concept of, we're looking at downtown revitalization, or for those in the urban environment, your district, your core district revitalization efforts. Some of you are already established as a nonprofit and established as a downtown organization, but are new to Main Street. So we come together today to really take a look and see what does it take to get started with regards to the Main Street perspective for the revitalization of our district or our downtown. And to start with that, I would like to share that Main Street is a twofold commitment to the revitalization efforts. On one hand, we take a look at comprehensive district transformation. We're not looking just at one component of what it takes to revitalize a district. It is about making sure that your economy is strong. So what does your economy mean for you? The local economy, the small business owners, how do we help them succeed, retain, expand, recruit new businesses by working with property owners to take a look at their space and bringing the businesses that complement what we have, support or strengthen the economy, but also by working with the community to improve the physical aspects of our district and the opportunities to really promote that sense of place, that this is what our community reflects, the identity of downtown and the community is, that what downtown's historic character, the heritage of the community, the cultural assets of your community, the commerce and the overall identity is represented through your district. What are we showing, and how can we address those components comprehensively? And it's also about bringing people, not only as visitors, but also our local efforts. When we look at downtowns or our commercial districts, we're looking at the opportunities to position your district as that place that not only reflects your community's identity, as I mentioned quickly, but also reflects the place where everybody wants to be, in shop, enjoy activities, even live and come and visit. So comprehensive district transformation is about making sure that all these elements, the economic, the physical, the promotional, and the sense of communities' civic engagement in their downtown are present and involved in our efforts. But on the other hand, it's about how we make it happen. And not only do we want to make sure things happen through your efforts, but also the how impacts the level of success and sustainability. Sometimes we can create projects for the moment, for a season or for the year, but the way we do revitalization impacts the long term. And what we want through Main Street is an effort that can not only be sustainable and successful, but we believe that sustainability not only depends on financial resources and continued management, but it also depends on the sense of ownership the communities have of your district and your downtown. You might be starting with a vision of what the future can be, and you want to share this vision, or you want to build consensus about the vision that your community has about downtown. Main Street is not about the vision of the few that are at the table right now. Main Street and the success of your district is about the vision that the community has about what this downtown or district can be. Let's keep that in mind, because that is going to be such an important component of your success and or your challenges. When we look at bringing the community together to be a part of this effort, it's going to be about making sure that they feel that they have a role to play in these efforts. And when we look at those opportunities and provide a very clear description of what these opportunities can be, then engaging the community sectors in the revitalization efforts at different levels will be important. So this is the overall picture of not only getting started, but making sure the journey is successful and that it is sustainable. Throughout our efforts across the country, we see communities that get started in revitalization and communities that have been successful after many years. At the end of this session, I'm going to confirm to you some of the principles that I'll be tackling throughout the next slides. And that community-driven effort is something Main Street believes. Again, if you're starting with the few people that can see the vision, it's a wonderful thing to do. We want to be acknowledging and recognizing the willingness of the people that we have involved. But the goal is that the community will need to be involved, all the sectors, and we'll talk more about it. So it's not just about the what we want to achieve, it's beyond projects. It's about a whole strategy and vision of revitalization that transforms, or if you feel that your district is already transformed, really keeps the transformation going and innovates and takes it to the next level every year. But it is also about making sure that your district continues to be something the community has a strong sense of ownership, and they demonstrate it by being involved in the Main Street program. When we look at these efforts, we believe that the 4-point approach can help you, because we look at those 4 points as the opportunity to see where do we need to pay attention, how does everything need to be connected. So we're hoping to continue to help you learn about the Main Street and how you can implement it from month to month, year to year. This is a journey. We are committed to be of support in your efforts. With that in mind, the opportunity is to establish a strong foundation for success. Some of you feel that you're you're doing pretty good in what you've accomplished so far. And we're happy for you in that area. Implementing Main Street is our hope is going to be providing a strong foundation and a structure on how things can continue to be shaped so that we can then really keep in mind that comprehensive effort and that community-driven principle that I mentioned. With the 4 points in mind, what we want to ensure is that we have a program that is based on the concept of with and not just for. And let me highlight that, and you probably have heard me say this in other occasions as well. But what we want is to make sure that through Main Street, you have and promote as many opportunities for engagement of community members and district stakeholders as you can. This is not about revitalizing your district or your downtown for your community, for your district stakeholders. This is about doing that with their support and their active engagement. And so the difference in your efforts will be truly based on how you go about it. And if you're just starting, keep this in mind. This is going to be important. Every time you have an idea, a project that has been approved to move forward, ask yourself the question, are we doing this with or just for the benefit of the community or the stakeholders in the district? If it is for, you're placing people as observers, and observers can quickly become critics. And that's something we don't want. We want people to be actively engaged so that they can be part of those efforts, but also proud of what you all can achieve. And then also accountable, that everybody has a role, a responsibility, and an opportunity to feel proud of what they can do to make your district and your downtown a place that everybody can be happy to live, enjoy, and promote. When we look at these efforts, then we need to think of who do we need to be working with as you get started or as you move forward to your next level of success. Our district is made up primarily by small business owners. And small business owners are at the focus of our efforts. We want to engage them and we want to work with them, but it's not just working for them. It is about working with them so that they can come together. We want to connect the business owners and we want to connect them to each other and to the resources and the partners that are able to see how strengthening a small business is beneficial for the local economy. And for that distinctive and authentic sense of place, our local businesses, our local small businesses really provide those products and services that we can be proud of promoting. And we need to help them and we need to work with them to understand those needs. It's going to be important to work with our small business owners and also with our small property owners. We need to work with them on their space. What is the most strategic use of their space to bring the businesses that complement our district? And so that's going to be an important piece of our efforts. And looking at the small business owners and the property owners and how we can connect them to this effort, engage them, but also help them see how beneficial it is, how much value they can have by working in a collective format. We're also needing to work with the community because this district might be, the downtowns are usually the community's living room, the best reflection of the quality of life of a community. Therefore, the community needs to be an important part of this effort. Keeping that local economy strong is part of the ongoing efforts of communities across the country. So everybody can have a piece and a part in this effort. And through Main Street, we can engage people as volunteers, we can engage people as partners, and help them see the value of the resources that are needed, and in also investing in downtown and the district as part of that participation. Doing things with and not just for our community will be an important principle we need to have as a foundational aspect of our work. Some of us learn to get to do projects that are successful at the beginning or throughout the years of your organization's existence. But in many cases, what we see as the struggle of success, continued success, is that people see the challenge in getting volunteers, new volunteers, or more investment. And everything is about people and the connections we make and how we reflect that this is not a responsibility of the few, but a responsibility of the entire community, and something, again, that we can be all very proud of. So starting a foundation on people and making sure that people feel that they own this district or their downtown, and that they can be part of this success and revitalize their district, is something we want to work on as part of our foundation. So overall, we want to establish a downtown revitalizations team that is not only formed by the few that we have, hopefully you have more than few already engaged, but also by the entire community. And how do we look at that structure? Well, internally, within your organization, many of you are starting, like Nan said, starting a nonprofit organization or starting a committee that you already have, and implementing the Main Street, or implementing Main Street in an existing organization that has functioned for many years. Overall, internally, the Main Street approach anticipates a board of directors in place and leading this effort with multifaceted roles. And I'll talk more about it shortly. We also anticipate committees, and we recommend that at the beginning, you consider the Main Street 4-point approach as a potential structure to get things started, so that you know that attention to each of the 4 points can be given by a team and a team's effort. But we also recommend that the organizations need to have professional staff guiding and managing the operations and the programming of the overall efforts, so that there can be full-time attention and dedicated effort. Internally, it is important that your organization consider this structure. And you notice that I put them, in visual more as a circle and not necessarily as a square or as a rectangle. In the past, the traditional hierarchy of nonprofit organizations and many organizations or institutions were more hierarchical. What we've learned throughout the decades of doing Main Street is that this needs to be considered more as a team, as an effort that is not about hierarchy, but it's about how we work together with each other, because we have shared roles and shared responsibilities as well. So that's going to be an important piece of how we support you building that organizational structure throughout the next few months, and developing it and growing it throughout the next few years as well. Your team also will need to include, and that's a very important component, because sometimes in the past, people thought, well, if there's a Main Street organization, then they are the ones who need to be doing downtown revitalization or district revitalization. But as I mentioned before, for us in Main Street, it is about everybody feeling the sense of ownership, that they have a piece, a part to be active participants. And so externally, from within your community, your county, your region, we definitely see the opportunity for you to confirm partnerships with the city, your local government agencies, and with other organizations within your community. Perhaps using the 4-point approach, you can take a look and see what are the economic development groups, organizations. What are some of the groups that look at physical enhancements or beautification, historic preservation, name it, all the physical elements the downtown will need support with. And also, what are some of the groups that might be, or professionals that really focus on promotion and also on marketing and developing partnerships with them. And also within your county government benefits from a revitalized downtown in your community. And I'm hoping that we can build that awareness and the support from county governments and their agencies to support your downtown revitalization efforts as well. It is important for everybody's success. And so with this in mind, think of the downtown revitalization as a team effort, a team with your community, with your region, but also internally, a whole culture of let's do this together and how understanding our roles. With that in mind, I wanted to highlight the important role of the board of directors in leading these efforts. And we often say leading, but I'm going to highlight pretty soon that it's more than one role, not only about leading, about managing, and about actually doing the work of revitalization as well, which again, I want to highlight because it's different to the traditional hierarchical structure that we've had in many organizations, where the board sometimes just comes as a governing body, just to say yay or nay, or to discuss what is the direction and what are the projects that can get approved, and leave that work to somebody else to apply or implement. In Main Street, we believe that we lead by example. We lead and influence people to take action because we also take action. And so board members have a very important role in Main Street. And what we encourage is for you to look at your current board structure and consider then that the structure needs to include representation, balanced representation from within your district or downtown. And that includes property, business owners, organizations that are present in downtown, residents, and employees. Pretty much all the sectors of the downtown stakeholders, but also the city and or county need to be at the table as well. The city, because they are the most direct partners, and hopefully the counties. If they are proactive in supporting your communities, then it's definitely a partner to engage. But also your community and the different members and all the sectors of your community, again, property owners, business owners, representatives from organizations and the workforce. When we look at this structure, then we say, okay, do we have a balanced level of representation between all these sectors? Is the district or your downtown represented, or is this an organization that is mainly formed by outside people from downtown or from the district? If that is the case, I'm hoping you're able to see then the opportunity to make some changes in the near future. And we will be happy to help you with, further that effort as well. The same with the community. Is the community represented? Are some sectors missing? How can we build this effort? It doesn't need to happen tomorrow, but it should be a conscious decision about our goal. And then we need to take action on how to make it happen within the next few months, so that it can be more of the perspectives that are needed at the table. This is going to be important. So many organizations are formed not with downtown or district stakeholders, with outside very, very committed stakeholders. But we need to make a commitment to engage the stakeholders from within the district, as they are the most direct beneficiaries of the revitalization efforts, but also the ones that need to support it as well. When we look at this effort, we need to look at the background of your board of directors and the members that we have. And this, by the way, can be done with the committees if you already have committees in place, or when you have them. Be attentive to that balanced structure. But when we think of the background, let's take a look at the age, gender, and race and ethnicity. And some people say, well, why do we need to pay attention to that? Again, perspectives and diverse and inclusive perspectives bring us into the awareness and understanding of all the needs and all the strengths, everything that the district has to offer, but also everything that is needed by the community from the district as well. And when we think of that, I invite you to consider your local demographics. I highlighted Utah's because it's one that, of course, you probably are very familiar with. but then just attach it next to it, your communities, comparing, but looking specifically, especially when we think of people, at the age and sex demographics or gender demographics with regards to your community's demographics. So many boards have a very good balance between 35s or 50s. Some boards are largely formed by individuals that have or are basically in the older generation, very strong base of experience and knowledge, but the youth is not engaged in some of our organizations. And so this should give us an opportunity to say youth, as well as at age at every level, should be an important opportunity to engage and embrace. Taking a look at also the race and ethnicity is another component, because in your communities, we can see, especially in communities where economic development is happening, the changing demographics. So it's going to be important to make sure that we have that in mind when we form our boards, or as we form our boards and we build them and implement the Main Street approach. Is the Main Street expects diversity, balanced representation in an inclusive type of cultural environment in our organizations. So that's going to be important. And I just highlight a tool that you can use to just take a look at this exercise and assess where you are in this effort and decide how much of an opportunity you have to build more balance in your structure within the next few months. But let's take a look quickly at education, skills, and talents as background information and experience that we need within our boards, and use the 4-point approach to really give you a sense of everybody that you need and the opportunities you have to make this organization a very inclusive and very comprehensive in the level of skills and experience as well. And we invite you again to consider these opportunities to evaluate, use the 4 points, and take a look at who you have and perhaps some of the gaps that we might need to consider in our recruitment efforts in the next few months. When we look at the board of directors as an example, and again, with your committees in the future as well, the role of the board of directors is essential, as I mentioned. 3 specific roles we see as multifaceted roles. Leading is about motivating and influencing and inspiring people to come on board and to lead and to be part of this effort. But managing the organization is going to be an ongoing effort of a board of directors in Main Street. And then the opportunities to also be engaged on a personal level in either not only the board, but also the committees or a subcommittee or a project. But be that example of that engaged leader, an active member of your organization. When we look at boards really have a very important opportunity to gather consensus from within the community and form the structure of the organization with committees that are needed based on those and on those efforts, but also define the transformation strategy or the direction of your program, and then be proud of, quantify, and qualify the outcomes as well. Again, more sessions are needed to explain more in detail about these roles, but we'll be happy to work with you throughout the next few months on that as well. The committees is an important piece to make sure that a board is not just the only base that you have in your programs. If you don't have committees, the expectation is that through Main Street, we will expand the opportunities for the community to be engaged. In addition to the board, we will have opportunities for everybody in the community from different sectors, like I said before, from different backgrounds, will find a chance to be actively engaged in the revitalization of your efforts. When we look at every one of the 4 points, there should be an opportunity to recruit, to retain and to recognize the value of the different perspectives and experiences, to form committees that can help us achieve great success. So take a look at this opportunity, and we'll share these slides with you, just to understand perhaps the base or the fabric of your committees, that what could be the makeup when you think of promotion, economic vitality, design, and organization. As your organization grows, more flexibility can be implemented in the organizational structure. Some of you might feel like a fundraising committee needs to be in place. Some of you are going to feel like a communication or and a specific committee will be needed. And that's by all means an opportunity to consider as you look at not only at the strategy of your efforts in programming, but at the strategy of your efforts on how to implement that programming. An example that I've highlighted in the past, but I like because they highlight it well, it's a community that is relatively small in Bloomfield, but really highlights how they're organized and what are they doing under each of these efforts. And so this is just an example of how a design committee highlights what they are focused on, and then look for the people or confirm the people that form those committees in organization and promotion and economic vitality. You have similar opportunities to look at your efforts and then create a supporting base so that this support can be there for the board, not only to create the events or the projects, but also really align these projects with the strategies that the board has formulated and implement them. Overall, the opportunity in Main Street is about how we work together. As I mentioned before, it's about making sure that all the pieces come together to like gears, or like in many ways we highlight the comparison to a choir or a symphony orchestra. The many voices and instruments that are so individual, but yet bring in a collective that makes something work so wonderfully, whether it's music or the work that we do in Main Street is going to be needing to have a special attention on how we work together in a coordinated effort. And that's why staff is such an important component of your base and your structure. Staff is going to come to really be a dedicated effort to ensuring that your organizational structure is working well and it's coordinated, but it is a team that looks at the board and the committees and making sure that everybody is functioning well and not in silos, but collectively working together. When we look at the direction of your programming, we've talked about the how, but as you look at defining the what you're going to do this first year or in the next few months and the next few years, we want to encourage you to consider not just ideas of people that come at the table and of course are probably very aware of the needs and highlight the ideas, or perhaps those that think somebody else in another town has done something really successfully and want to see if that can work in your community. Ideas will be plenty that you're going to see coming to the table. But what we want to recommend is that your work should be based on inputs that you gather year to year, based on the opportunities to say, bring the community together. What you've done in the past, assess it. Take a look at what you've done and ask yourself, was this done with the community or just for their benefit? Was this done with the community because we asked them for their input, or it was an idea that somebody just brought to the table or something we wanted to copy from another place? Well, now with Main Street is the invitation to say we're going to be authentic, not only in the identity of our downtown, but authentic in our own organizational base and the things that we do. What belongs to this downtown that we should highlight, that we should promote? What is part of the community that we need to be marketing as well, and what are the needs of these specific businesses that we need to be addressing, and the space and the opportunities that the space can have. So let's bring the community together if you haven't done it recently. Many of you, because of COVID or because of the circumstances of the last 2 years, have really gone out and tried to gather feedback from businesses and also the community on how things are going. Use that feedback and make sure that that input helps you build consensus. If you haven't gathered your community's input, that might be a very important piece, and consider a visioning process to help the community come to the table and tell you what they envision, their perceptions about downtown or the district, and the things that they see are needed within the community that downtown could be or offer. We also need to learn about your current market conditions, and just like I highlighted the demographics, there might be some trends and things happening specific to your region. It's going to be important to take a look at that. Starting with the business mix, what do you have at this time? What is your starting point? And so we need to ensure that inventories of our businesses and the space available or the space occupied or underutilized is also something we need to keep in mind. What are some of the community's assets that we need to keep in mind as we promote what this community has to offer? And if needed, do some market research and information that we're often doing with communities to help them see what's their starting point. That is going to be important. And then from this input, we then get into a board defining the direction using the 4-point approach to make informed decisions. Again, this will be strategy-driven type of leadership that we promote. This is not about idea-driven or just project-driven. Transformation happens because there's a direction, there's a strategy that needs to be defined, and that strategy then aligns all the projects to make sure that the transformation is not only possible but effective. And by using the 4-point approach, we can develop our first work plan or the year 1, and then take a look at the low-hanging fruit that can not only build momentum but help us achieve things incrementally, starting with what is feasible right now and more achievable. So you can use the SMART approach to really developing a work plan and ensuring that then the 4 points are covered, and hopefully combining efforts. If there's one project you can achieve this year that touches all the 4 points, that is much better than 10 projects that are siloed. And that's an important piece and something to consider. When we look at our work, it's going to be important to do what Nan suggested, to keep track and not only measure, but promote the progress of your effort. So we want to make sure that through Main Street, our organizations learn to measure and promote their success. Sometimes we are known to be hardworking people, but not always the people that actually promote what we do. And we need to embark more on that. With that in mind, that's an opportunity then to say, how do we promote and keep people engaged in this effort? So please keep in mind the opportunities to say, how are we going to measure success, and what success will look like of everything that we do? That's going to be an important piece. Overall, Main Street is comprehensive. So things that we've learned throughout the last 40 years plus that we've been doing Main Street is that it cannot be an effort of making things pretty or just a new business here or events there. It is going to be comprehensive across the 4 points. It needs to be incremental. We know we have big projects ahead, but take a look first at the baby steps and make sure that you take the projects that are more visible under a strategy that is longer term, and looking at community driven and not just the work of the few, but the work of everybody in the community. And the public and private sector need to be engaged. And that's why Main Street is such a unique approach to economic development. we believe the community, as well as the private sector and public sector, need to make it happen. We also believe that we need to be proud on what we already have and not necessarily, so demolition, I'm sorry, is not going to be the first answer. And hopefully it's not going to be an answer that you see in your path. But we believe in highlighting what we are proud of and what's left to us by our pioneers. When we look at the quality over quantity, is going to be an important piece. Quality over quantity. Again, we want to have sometimes events every month of the year, but the ones that the events that people remember are the ones that are done well. So if you need to choose quality. Change is another principle of Main Street, but what Main Street promotes is that we can take change and manage it and define the direction for change instead of letting change happen to us. And we believe that that's an important part of your efforts ahead. And we can talk all we want, but we need to take action. So developing a work plan for the year is going to be an important piece based on a strategy. And again, that strategy also needs to be based on inputs, the Main Street way. We look forward to working with you in the next few months as we go and visit your communities and help your boards define the direction and assess where your starting point is. But we welcome the opportunities to have and address the questions and answers at this time if there's time available.
Thank you so much, Norma. Great information. We did get a question about the importance of being a nonprofit. And so could you address a little bit more about that in terms of, you know, a particular group may be functioning as a committee of a city. Yep. So, you know, maybe very briefly address the pros and cons of being exclusively a city committee.
Well, there are pros and cons, and I appreciate you asking both. The pro with working as a committee from the city is perhaps the stability that it offers you, right? And you already have a base. The city definitely is a partner and should be involved and supportive. But the cons of a city-based group, what we've seen in many instances is that the community feels like if the city is leading it, then the city needs to do it. And volunteer-led efforts are not as strong as when they are through nonprofit organizations. So that's one overarching difference that we see. The other one is in the decision-making. To be a committee based with under the city is one thing. To be a committee of the city is another. And so the opportunity is to say how much independence you have in the decision-making effort. Main Street needs to have the public and private sector coming together. Therefore, it cannot be sometimes based in just one sector. It has to be impartial so that you can really be the consensus builder and the one that look for resources from both sectors as well. So be very attentive to the opportunities to see how much independence you have in the decision-making, especially with strategy. Sometimes the cities are looking, again, the city should be looking at it, the overall community, but your role as a Main Street organization will be to focus on downtown or your district. And so that should be the focus. And that should be carefully maintained because it's not always easy if you depend on city and again, depending on the level. Also in resources, a nonprofit can gather or garnish grants and qualify for additional resources and sponsorships from private corporations. Again, what you want is as much as possible a community-driven effort. And as a nonprofit, you have the opportunity to really build a more comprehensive balance of that effort or that structure. Hopefully this helps. There are plenty more pros and cons, but we'll need a whole session for that.
Thank you, Norma. Paul Larson suggests that for a future webinar, we might look at board structure and program residency as a future topic. So yeah, we'll absolutely look at that, Paul. It's a great suggestion.
Very good.
And we've got a question. What are the typical sources of funding for the nonprofit downtown committee?
Very good question. And you'll hear many communities talk about the public and private sector. And what that means for us in Main Street is typically we expect that, especially the beginning, but throughout the journey of revitalization, the city funds, it's a funder of the downtown revitalization effort or your district. So there should be conversations on how that partnership can be confirmed. And why? Well, the city benefits from increased value of properties, name it. There's so many opportunities we can highlight for building the case, but usually it's the city. In many ways, we need to also look at the county and how your mission supports their economic development goals as well. So counties across the country are increasingly supporting downtown revitalization efforts. We also see, of course, at the state level, you already have the Utah Main Street gathering those resources from the state. But also the private sector is an important source in various formats, sponsorships, but also depending on your organization, it can be on a type of programming. Many call them, friends of downtown. Many highlight memberships. Membership is a traditional approach to source funding sources. What we are highlighting more and more is the opportunity to really look at partnership-related programs. In other words, it's more not about what you give me for the money that I give you in membership. It is more about how I can be a partner to the downtown revitalization efforts. And then, of course, through products and services that the Main Street programs have, from mugs or products that highlight the downtown that people can buy, but also the support and investment from each stakeholder, like business owners, property owners, residents, and the formats, again, that you can identify that might work for your community. Like I said, for residents in many places, it's about Friends of Downtown. For building and business owners, it's about partnerships or contributions or donations. There are several opportunities for both public and private sector resources.
Another thing to note, Norma, and maybe you and I could explore this a little bit further offline, but community foundations are an amazing tool to work with folks within the community who want to donate and ensure the future of given communities. So Utah does have enabling legislation. Community foundations are permitted. And I want to circle back with everybody in terms of how Main Street America has seen successful integration of a community foundation as a funding source for Main Street programming.
Very important. I appreciate you mentioning that. Very important. Any foundations you see, again, the opportunity is to build a case for who benefits and who has a presence in your downtown, who should be involved, and how can we build that case for a partnership that not only involves programming, but also funding for the organization. We have seen more in the recent years, especially with COVID and the different challenges that we've had recently, that the grants are coming back as well. And from the federal government, we've seen the ARPA funds, for example. So hopefully your communities have already conversations, but many of these programs are also looking at how they need to be dedicating support to downtowns as well. So important conversations you can take a look at to build a balanced and comprehensive funding structure as well.
Great, thank you. Last cut. Sorry, we're running behind time here, folks, but I think it's really important to address as many questions as we can. So call out to the audience. Any other questions?
I would expect that an hour is not enough for many of you, so you probably have more questions as you go through, and we'll share the slides with Nan so that she can distribute as well. So any questions in the future are welcome as well.
Great. We did have a question come through. Does the national program have mediation resources?
Thank you for asking that. Yes, we do. Mediation is definitely a base for conversations, to take a look and see what are some of the shared roles and responsibilities that everyone has in the downtown revitalization effort, but also what are some distinctive roles. And as a national organization, we own the Main Street name. And so if your community will be designated, it is about coming together, right? And working together. So if that is a difficult thing, play in the same sandbox, we definitely are there to support and take a look at what are some of the challenges in place, and how can we solve them or resolve them by shared responsibilities, or by recognizing distinctive roles that everybody needs to acknowledge and play. So that's going to be an important piece as you discover, dedicating effort to downtown. You'll find some of the people that are probably going to say, no, this is what we do, and here comes Main Street trying to do all of this. And so it's going to be important for us to know what is it that is shared and what is it that we need to focus on, while other partners are going to be confirmed for specific resources.
Great. Let's see. It looks like we had a question, but maybe not. So with that, again, last quick call for questions. And again, please know all of the 16 communities that are currently designated will be hearing from me shortly, following up to learn about your opportunities, your challenges, suggestions that you might have, and then resources that we have at the state and national level to help support you as you start your baby steps in this process. We did get another question. Is it necessary to have a nonprofit in place to be considered for Tier 1 participation? No, it is not necessary to have it in place. We encourage you to work towards it. Again, I believe as we form this program, we have a lot of flexibility in shaping the requirements and the guidelines for each tier. So we encourage, the Main Street model does look at and emphasize development of a nonprofit. So that's certainly a goal that we would encourage. If that doesn't work for you in your particular circumstances, as we're all starting, I think we can be flexible and move forward. Now, 3 to 5 years later into the program might be a different story, but for right now, let's work within the confines of what's working for all of you. We don't want you to get overwhelmed. We want you to know that what you're doing is really important work. And this work hasn't been available in an organized fashion in the state for quite a long time. So I think I can say this on behalf of our advisory committee. We are here to support you as you start down this path. And I think it's so exciting. I think this program is needed. I think our communities can definitely benefit, but also the entire state. So again, thank you, Norma, so much. Such great information. And to all of you out there in the audience, please know we're here to again support you, but we also want your suggestions. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me, nanderson@utah.gov. And with that, unless I see any other questions, we will see you, if not before, a month from now, and we'll be hearing from UDOT and Jay Aguilar. Same time, same channel. Happy New Year to all of you, and thank you again for your participation. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.